Hey, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us today, whether you're coming to us on YouTube or on the podcast. Joining us in this episode is Brent Goldman, who is a former teacher and he transitioned into the business world and is now a CEO of Xceed Prep Academy, which is this amazing private school in South Florida with multiple campuses. So if you are in South Florida, you definitely must check it out. Basically, it offers students greater flexibility in their education. So I'm so excited to have Brent here. Brent, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Good, thank you. So before we begin with your story, I just really want to clarify for any of our listeners who may not know, what exactly is flexible learning?
That's a great question. Well, maybe we start with what is inflexible learning. And to me, the traditional school model, at least here in the States and in Florida, 6, 7 hours a day. You're given a prescribed schedule. Each class is 50 minutes. The bell rings. You go to the next class. You're told when to eat lunch. You're told when sports practices start, and you might even be told when to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So that is what I would call not being flexible. So to me, flexible learning, as far as Xceed defines it, is that every kid has their own special talents and academic needs that we need to address. And it's an 8 to 4 day,
Yeah.
and everybody's schedule is different as a result. So, to me, a kid that has attentional issues, as an example,
Yeah.
might not be able to take a full load of 6 or 7 classes at one time. Our flexibility enables kids to take 2 classes at one time
Okay.
and still get the same 6 credits during the school year, but not be overwhelmed with having to stay on task for 6 or 7 hours a day. It might be that I can't get up in the morning, and as a result, I'm very sluggish at school at 7 a.m. when the first bell rings. Well, with us, if you can't get up in the morning, maybe you come to school in the afternoons when you're fresh, when you're ready to learn. All of us are, some of us are morning people, some of us are night people. It just depends. I'm a morning person. I like to get my day started early and end it early. So to me, education, traditional education in the United States is very inflexible. And we've tried to disrupt that, uh, existing model that's been going on for over 100 years and, look at, hey, we can be flexible with how we treat our students.
Yeah, that is amazing. My brother would have definitely jumped on the bandwagon of the afternoon classes because my dad and I were morning people. We would have been in the morning like you, but he would have learned so much better if he could have gone to school later, without a doubt. Um, okay, so with your story, I love your story. It's so interesting because also I think it's important for teachers to understand that if they do ever have any big ideas, to, not be scared to jump on them, because there's just so many opportunities out there where education is concerned. So I would love for you to tell us sort of the events that led you to transition out of teaching. Yeah, and just like what happened next when you were a teacher.
Yeah, so I taught for 5 years in the Broward County public school system. Absolutely loved it. Received my master's degree and started working on my doctorate degree during that time.
Okay.
And I think what happened is life started changing in the world of education, and many more choices and options became available. Whether it's the internet, uh, online learning, virtual learning, uh, school choice, uh, tutoring, college counseling. There's so many
So
different
many.
opportunities available for people that go into education to when, when I was in college or in high school in the mid 80s, the traditional track was you became a teacher, and then if you wanted to work your way up through the system, you became an assistant principal, a
Yeah.
principal, maybe an area superintendent, and then a superintendent. But there weren't a lot of different tracks that you could go on. So I think, life, I just kind of lived during the right time where the world started changing. One. Two, I had the benefit of having parents who were both educators and both entrepreneurial. My
Mm.
mother owned a network of childcare centers in Florida that she and my father started. So, from them, I inherited, hey, there might be another route other than just this traditional route. And after 5 years of teaching, I had an opportunity, a developer in South Florida of a planned community came to my mother who had childcare centers
Hmm.
and said, hey, would you be interested in starting a private school, K-5? And at that time, like I mentioned, I was working on my doctorate.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't really want to do this. Would you be interested in doing it? If you're interested, let's discuss how we're going to raise funds and start this
Wow.
business. That's how we got that's how we got started. And I think I got hooked, um, once I got hooked, it took off, and
Yeah.
I've had an opportunity to co-found a number of different educational startups over the years.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, what you were I think you hit the nail on the head when you say you were extremely fortunate to have parents that were entrepreneurial, because if you aren't raised in that environment, you're sort of stuck with the original thought, which is, okay, you finish school, you get a job, you be a teacher, and then you maybe go into administration or leadership. But there's never that kind of push to think, oh, I could actually start a business with something I know around education or around teaching. So definitely, I want to get through to any teachers listening that if you do have big dreams, it is possible. There are people out there who
Oh,
can.
there's absolutely, and I think a number of cottage industries have started over the past 15 years. Tutoring is an explosive business.
Yep.
K-12 and in post-secondary in the United States, college counseling, just from a sheer numbers perspective, uh, schools don't have the manpower or woman power to properly advise thousands of kids per grade on the college admissions process. So that's a whole cottage industry that has become available for educators over the years as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely, yeah, I didn't even think of that. So true. So okay, with regards to Exceed Prep Academy, how did you come up with the idea, and what were some of the initial challenges that you had to overcome in like the beginning stages?
Sure. So basically, Exceed is kind of a blend of my 35 years of experience in education with a traditional brick and mortar school and an online school.
Okay.
So I co-founded and ran a K-12 private school here in South Florida for 21 years. We
Okay.
had about 850 students. It was traditional college prep. So that's obviously a large piece of my experience.
Right.
We also co-founded the first SACS accredited private online high school in the early 2000s
Oh, wow.
that we partnered with the University of Miami on. And eventually we sold it to the Washington Post and Kaplan. At that time, the Washington Post owned Kaplan, and that was in 2007. So, for about 6 years, I learned how we were pioneers in virtual education. And,
Wow.
that you asked a question earlier about flexibility, that's the ultimate flexibility, where, you can, work at your own pace, at your own time,
Yeah.
as long as you have, an internet connection. So your school's open 24/7, 365. So kind of Xceed is a combination of a traditional brick and mortar school, along with an online virtual school. So we have, uh, we're in facilities that are 4 to 5,000 square feet. We make them look like startups, high-tech startups in a
Yeah.
Starbucksy type feel.
They're
We
beautifully
have
designed.
live subject certified teachers on site, and we deliver the curriculum using online curriculum. So students create their own schedules when they're on campus, but when they're off campus, because we utilize online curriculum, they have that same flexibility that virtual school students have. They're able to work on their school 24/7, 365. So if they're going to travel,
Right.
with their family or travel to an athletic tournament, their school's not closed. And then with the pandemic, with Zoom and Teams, that makes it a lot easier for us to provide that flexibility for students that travel. So the genesis of Xceed was my 35 years of life experience as an educator. And the initial challenges that we had to overcome was evangelizing this concept, because really anybody under the age of 30,
Yeah.
when we started this in 2017, did not get it.
Hard to
So
believe.
what a few things happened to us that helped us evangelize this. The biggest is COVID.
Yep.
COVID, as unfortunate as it was great for Xceed, because people all of a sudden learned what hybrid work meant, and their kids were working from home. They were working from home. Hey, we can live anywhere in the country, and I can
Yeah.
still do my job. Oh, it's really nice that I can do a Zoom from my kids' softball game, watch their game, and not miss work. And a lot of those kids were working at home, and for the first time in their lives, being successful. So post-COVID, as people were starting to go back to school, and more people were understanding what hybrid blended actually was, because they
Yeah.
were living it. They wanted their kids to have the same experience that they were having with work. But that's our biggest challenge. Is we're really different than, this is not how we went to school. And we went to school like I described at the beginning, in the inflexible situation, where 6 hours a day, seat time,
Yep.
5 days a week, 180 days a year. And this generation this is an on-demand world now. Our kids are growing up in an on-demand world. They have smartphones. They Uber to their friends' houses. They get
Yep.
food delivered from DoorDash.
Yep.
They download movies from Netflix. Everything is on demand except school. So our our challenge was the parents, not the kids, because the kids
Yeah.
get the parents didn't go to school like this, and we didn't grow up like this. So it's a little bit harder for us to fathom. So that was, probably our biggest challenge that we had to overcome in 2017, is that this isn't how people went to school. And, anybody over the age of 30.
100%. And I think, COVID also helped parents to see, it sort of did a little bit of your marketing for you, because it helped parents to see if they have a child that could be disciplined enough to work online and get and do the job that was expected of them, which a lot of them rose up to the task. I think surprising the parents as well. right? That suddenly you see, oh, wait a minute, my child is actually quite disciplined and could work well at an online school like this.
And I think one of the biggest myths of the pandemic, at least here in Florida, remote learning got slammed by critics. And for the most
Really?
cases, rightfully so, schools were woefully unprepared for what happened, it was kind of understandable. They're
Yes.
not designed for remote learning. And what happened was teachers hopped on Zoom, did their lectures and assigned work, and the kids in the background had their cameras off and were doing whatever,
Yeah.
and it just didn't work. But there's a large minority of kids that, for the first time, I'm not dealing with social pressures. I'm not
Yes.
being bullied. I'm not afraid. At school, I'm afraid to raise my hand because people are going to laugh at me. Now I can work at my own pace. I don't have to worry about that. I can just talk with my teacher individually. I don't have to worry about what other people think. So, all these kids, all of a sudden, this was a much more effective way to go to school, and they're successful for the first time in their lives.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. The taking away that stress of any type of bullying situation, right? Whether it's, especially like mental, that mental health, a lot of the mental health issues with students, it does. I know I interviewed a woman who teaches grade 2 and 3. She has 60 grade 2s online in her class.
Yeah,
And
good luck with that.
yeah. The way the school is structured, it works really well. She loves it. Um,
Right.
but I think they're separated. I think it's a total of 60, but it's like I think if I remember correctly, it's 20. But she
Okay.
says they are much more engaged, and the parents have told her a lot of it has to do with that, taking them away from that social pressure that they have at school. So you're absolutely, spot on with that. So speaking to if we were to speak to the teachers out there, because this is a flexible learning environment, what are some of the benefits of working here at Xceed Prep Academy versus the public school system?
It's a great question. So when we conceptualize Exceed, we kind of want to blow up the existing model of education. And we kind of work through every day. What a school looks like is going to be different with us. The school calendar is going to be different with us. The school day is going to be different with us. But also the role of the teacher
Yeah.
is going to be different with us. So in a traditional school here, public, private, charter, whatever it may be, teachers spend so much time dealing with just what I call crap.
Yeah. Understand.
It's lunch duty, bus duty, um, carpool duty, fire drills, assemblies, things that just aren't, monitoring the playground, stuff that just,
Yeah.
you're a babysitter, you're a police officer, you're
Yeah.
a security guard, but you're not really a teacher. Plus, we also wanted to create an environment where teachers didn't have to spend hours upon hours lesson planning and
Right.
hours upon hours grading stacks of papers. We want to give them time to actually teach. So, um,
I love that.
because our kids come throughout the day, we don't have carpools. Our kids can eat lunch when they're hungry. We don't have lunch duty. We our students participate in their own extracurricular activities, not through the school. So they're not coaching teams or sponsoring a wide array of clubs. And then our curriculum, because we utilize virtual curriculum, much of it is pre-planned, though there is freedom for teachers to modify lessons and to add to lessons if they so choose. And most of the curriculum is auto graded,
Yeah.
which they don't have to spend my mom was an elementary school teacher. I still visualize her coming home every night with a stack of papers
Yes.
that we had to grade. Well, so what this does for us, for our teachers, is it enables them to actually be teachers,
Yeah.
and to work
Amazing.
one-on-one with students, to work in small groups with students, to motivate students that need the motivation, to communicate more with parents, not just when the students are messing up, but when they're
Yeah.
doing good things. So, we've really tried to reinvent the role of the teacher with Xceed. And thus, I believe strongly that it's a great place to work. So uh, whether it's better or not better, it's surely different. It's not for every teacher. It's surely not for, the grizzled teacher set in her ways,
Yep.
uh, because it's a totally different paradigm shift, coming to teach with us, because you lose a lot of control that you had in the classroom. But we find that a lot, especially younger teachers, love this because they like learning this way when they were in college. So, I think it's just we really try real hard to say, hey, the model is broken.
Yeah.
How can we disrupt it? And that's what we've done with our teachers.
Well, it definitely like sounds to me as if you're giving teachers back that one thing that they can never get back on a regular day in a public school system, and that's their time, right? Their time to focus on learning to be a better teacher all the time, and to, that personal development, that professional development, that they can actually invest in themselves, which you cannot do when you are bombarded with all of these other hats that you have to wear,
Yeah.
instead of focusing on, why you went to teach in the first place. And I agree with you in terms of, if you are the type of teacher who wants to be somewhere that is the future of education, wants to embrace, just diversity in your job, and being, challenged in different ways and learning new things. This is a perfect opportunity for anyone who embraces that. And I think, like, you're right, it does tend to be younger teachers. But I would hope maybe there's some older teachers out there too
Oh,
that
sure.
want to
Sure. No,
try it out.
I'm stereotyping there for
Yeah,
sure. It really depends on the individual.
for sure.
I'm almost 57 years old. I'm pretty set in my ways. So it's very hard for me to change things that I do with my daily routine. And it's I think, younger folks sometimes are more malleable and are able to adapt
Yeah.
to change better, but it really depends on the person.
100%. I mean, with me having moved to South Africa, I mean, that was a huge, well, if you can do that, you can really embrace change in any way, right? And I would encourage, it's not as scary as people think. So if you are interested, definitely try it out. Which leads me to my next question, Brent. Like, are there specific teachers, if teachers were interested in applying at your school, um, what are you looking for specific teachers at the moment, or should they just apply regardless?
Yeah,
How
we're
would
all,
you go doing that?
yeah, we're always looking for talent. Uh, in the States and in Florida, there is a teacher shortage, for all kinds of reasons. So it's very challenging. We partner with the local universities, School of Education, to help flow some talent through to us after students graduate. We have an email address, careers@xceedprep.org, which is, you can just send your resume to us through that email address, which is, a great way to let us know your interest in working for us. But, especially math science teachers, there's a shortage here with all teachers, but math science are typically the hardest to find. And that to me is no different in the year 2024 than
Mhm.
in the year 1996 when I started this. It's, those STEM teachers are always hard to find.
And just to clarify, you are always looking for online teachers as well as in-person teachers, right? You have
Correct. Yeah.
both.
So we have 6 schools in South Florida, which are live. Typically our teachers live, 15, 20 miles from a particular campus. And then we have a virtual school where we have a cadre of teachers who live all over the place.
Okay.
And we have students that are just enrolled in our virtual school who live around the world. So we look for both. Yes.
Amazing. That's so cool. Thank you. That's amazing. So just a few final thoughts, Brent. Are there any books that you recommend for our listeners for either personal or professional development?
Sure. I am a sports guy, so I love biographies about sports coaches.
Oh, nice.
Uh, I just always, I like to learn about how they lead their organization. So from a personal leadership development, that's something I'm always looking for a good biography about a sports coach,
Yeah.
number one. But from professional development, I read Education Week, which is available online.
Yep. I read that one.
And I read it weekly really to, stay up to date on trends in education, what's going on, who's doing cool stuff. So I think that's, those types of journals are important. And I also subscribe to a private school group called Enrollment Catalyst.
Okay.
And it's a website, but it's also a blog, and they do workshops, and that's kind of really focused on private schools, growing your private schools, enrollment, trends, re-enrollment. So, they also have a Facebook group where folks share best practices. So to me, those are, great ways to
Yeah.
stay up to date, to learn what other people are doing, share best practices. So from a personal perspective, I like to, learn about other leaders and leadership strategies and that type of stuff. But I really like to keep up with trends in my field. And those are, 2 examples of how I do that.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think Education Week is often overlooked as a fantastic resource, keeping you just knowing what other educational centers are doing around the world is so valuable. So yeah, you reminded me. I haven't read it actually in a little bit, so I need to get back on reading that because I do enjoy the articles in there. What is one piece of advice, Brent, that you would give to yourself as a first year teacher?
So going back almost 35 years when I was a first year teacher, I think the best advice I could give myself was don't be the sage on the stage.
Ah,
Nobody wants to hear you talk for an hour. And, there's a variety of ways that you can engage learners where they're going to get a lot more out of the material than you just standing up and lecture. The way I learned from my teachers, when I was in high school or in college, I think learning has evolved, and now obviously there's so many tremendous tools out there for, you to learn differently. So,
yeah.
the sage on the stage where the teacher's up there and the kids are here, you're giving notes, they're writing them down. I think my first year, I thought that's how you're supposed to teach. And
Me
that's
too.
obviously not a very effective way to do it. So that's probably the best piece of advice I would give myself
Yeah,
35 years earlier.
it is excellent advice. I was raised the same way, and it's so true. Like what I know now versus what I know then. Wow, I would have given myself a lot of advice. And last question today, Brent. What three things are you grateful for today?
Well, I'm surely grateful for my family. My wife, 2 kids, parents, siblings, nieces, nephews.
Awesome.
So that's surely number one. Number two, very grateful to have been an educator for my career, to have the opportunity to make an impact on somebody's life is a very powerful tool. So I'm grateful that I went into this profession, and I'm grateful for the colleagues that I have an opportunity to work with on a daily basis. Very fortunate to have a great team of fellow educators who all believe in the same mission and vision.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'm just so grateful for you, Brent. And I just really appreciate you for coming on the show, and especially for being a visionary in education and giving, teachers and students more opportunities to move out of that traditional education, because it's the visionaries that are going to change it. And that is who you are. So thank you so much from all the teachers. Thank you. And I really
Thank
just
you.
wish you only the most success and prosperity as you move forward with Xceed Prep Academy. So yeah, best of luck with all of your endeavors there. So thank you so much again.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you.
You're welcome.